Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Lakina McGee, which is she, I am Sydney Brown, which is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And you can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by simply going to typing in that search engine box on all podcast platforms, War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor, which keeps you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts, including that iHeartRadio app. As I said before, type in that search engine box, War on Anchor. We're also on YouTube. At War Media, once again at WAR Media. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live as we show you our support and take our bows. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun. Lakina, it's all about this time of year. It's all about March Madness. We'll get to college basketball later on in this segment, but there were other sports going on this past weekend. Let's kick it off with the NBA. Let's start local as we usually do. The Chicago Bulls had a split this weekend. They lost to the Miami Heat on Friday, but rebounded with a 118-95 win over the Toronto Raptors at the UC on Sunday night. Patrick Williams led the Bulls with 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Norman Powell chipped in with his season-high 32 points for the Raptors. Lakina, the big story in this one is, besides the win, it's the lineup changes to the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White and Wendell Carter are now coming off the bench. And Billy Donovan is, for lack of a better term, cracking the whip. It seemed to work, at least on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to happen, right, Sid? That he is going to play with all different types of combinations. He said to himself in the presser on Sunday that, look, I'm not committed to this lineup. I'm going to try different things and different players and, see who fits where. And look, in this case, it actually worked. I mean, Satoransky had 10 points. The scoring was very balanced. Patrick Williams had a season-high 23 for him. 9 players were in double figures for the Bulls, which, if you think about it, Sid, when was the last time that the Bulls have 9 players in double figures in one game?
I saw this statistic. The last time it happened was in 1971.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, guys like Bob Love and, guys like that were on the team. And, that's just how far back it goes. But I wasn't surprised because if you go back to those Jordan Pippen teams, you didn't have 9 guys in double figures. You didn't have, God rest his soul, Jack Haley score like 12 or 14 points. I mean, that just never happened. But I
mean, Rodman.
Yeah, exactly. So, just a lot of balanced scoring for the Bulls. I mean, yes, granted, the Raptors were without Siakam and like half their team, but look, this is probably what maybe you could say they should have done to the Sixers a couple of late last week. Kind of taking advantage of having a lot of their guys out. I mean, they pretty much not necessarily dominated from the word go, but they had like a lot of balanced scoring. I mean, Levine had 15, but he really didn't have to do much. I mean, you had Denzel chipping in with 13 off the bench, Otto with 11. Wendell Carter Jr. in his first couple bench had a double-double, 12 and 11. So, just a nice, very balanced, team performance.
Yeah, so it's a nice team balance performance for the Bulls. They only committed 11 turnovers for the game, but to go along with 35 assists, they moved the basketball around. You can see this unit, the starting lineup. It was very effective. They caught a Toronto team in a bad mood because Toronto lost to the Charlotte Hornets on the road the night before. We'll get to the weekend action from the association in a few minutes. But the Bulls took advantage of an opponent that played the night before. They came out with much better energy. It was led by the lineup change and head coach Billy Donovan. As we told you throughout this season on this show, that he was brought in to set the tone and set the culture and to see this team moving forward. Now, one angle that has come up within the last 24 hours, if you listen to various local shows or listening to podcasts online or reading stuff on Bulls Twitter, another reason why Billy Donovan is doing this is because management are possibly looking to trade Thaddeus Young, or perhaps maybe Garrett Temple, or maybe Laurie, which I doubt, but they're looking to trade certain veterans by the trade deadline. Maybe that's the case, but I didn't sense that last night. Maybe
Yeah,
it's just me.
well, yeah, I didn't sense it either. I mean, you know how some, Bulls, Twitter, how Bulls, quote unquote, insiders are. I think, people are just doing a lot of wishful thinking because a lot of people didn't expect the Bulls to be actually somewhat decent.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that they're at the level with the Sixers and the Bucks yet, but they're halfway decent. It's safe to say that a lot of fans didn't have expectations going into the season, and now it looks like, hey, they may have a shot at maybe getting to at least the play-in the playoffs. Hey, let's trade some people. Let's trade that. Yeah, let's try to trade Otto Porter Jr. and get rid of that contract. I think people are thinking with their heads and not their hearts, and they're thinking long and they're thinking a lot of cases probably wrong. So I think for me, I didn't get that sense. We'll see how they do because still got a few weeks before the trade deadline. So we'll see what the Bulls decide. What AK and Mark Eversley decide to do.
Let's talk about one of the guys that were benched from the starting lineup, and that was Wendell Carter Jr. In 19 minutes, he had a double-double with 12 points and 11 rebounds, including 4 offensive rebounds. His rating was a plus 12. As I've been saying before, Lakina, I'll say it again, he's out of position, and I know that this frustration comes from the Jim Borland administration that Wendell Carter Jr. has expressed he wants to be more involved offensively. As I said before, he's a heck of a defensive player, but he's playing out of position. He is a power forward. He is not a 5. And we saw him last week get abused by backups for the Philadelphia 76ers. Everybody's been abused by Joel, and I'm referring to that 50-point game by Embiid from a few weeks ago on ESPN. Everybody in their mama, as the kids would say, got abused in terms of the Bulls in that game from the interior perspective. But this team has struggled all year defensively. And Daniel Gafford, I know he didn't play that much on Sunday, but he brought the energy on Friday against the Miami Heat. And I want to see more out of him. He's one of my underrated guys that I like on this team. But Wendell Carter Jr., if they could just put him at the 4 position, I think he'll be fine. He's undersized to play a 5 position, even in today's NBA.
He's not a center, never has been, and I think I've been saying this for years now. He's more of a power forward, and play in the front, so in the front court. So I think for me, I think this was probably his best performances coming back from injury. So I think this is probably maybe. Look, he said that he's okay with coming off the bench. So maybe perhaps keep letting him do that. I mean, he's been more productive. So we've seen him against some of the top centers in the league. It's just that it's not going to work for him. So just keep him coming from the bench and let him be productive that way.
Yep. And we also saw a Denzel Valentine sighting. 20 minutes. He had 11 points, including 3 or 6 from downtown. He also contributed with 5 rebounds as well. Could we see him get moved, or perhaps hopefully we can see some consistency out of him if he stays on the team past the trade deadline?
Like I said, this is going to be very interesting. I don't think anybody knows what AK and Mark Eversley are thinking. So for anybody that says, "Oh, well, they're going to do this or they're going to do that," no one really knows. They've been very quiet. So, and I actually prefer my front office to be from a professional team to be very quiet, say as very little as possible, unless they absolutely have to. If they they make a couple of trades, great. If they stand pat and just let's try to finish out the season, perhaps maybe try to get to, if not the playoffs, maybe get into one of those play-ins. That's fine. I mean, the East is still pretty much there's a log jam there, so those bottom seeds are still there for the taking.
You're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakina McGee. I am Cindy Brown as we talk about the Chicago Bulls in the NBA. Checking this box score again, Lakina, from Sunday. Patrick Williams, I've been concerned about his offensive game. I think it's going to come in due time. You mentioned he scored a season-high 23 points, but he also contributed with 6 defensive rebounds, and his rating was a +9. I like Patrick Williams. He gets after it, especially defensively. His offensive game still needs a little bit of work, but I like the energy and I like the passion that he brings on the court, especially defensively. He's a young guy that he's not a finished product yet. He's only 19 years old. years old, people forget. But I like the way that he wants to learn, that he's growing. Hopefully, we can see a jump next year, whether this team makes the playoffs or not. Hopefully, we can see a bigger jump next year. I know people have compared him to a young Kawhi Leonard. I see some similarities in that, but I'm not going to call him the next Claw just yet. But I like the way that he's taken. It looks like he's taken another step, but it's going to take time. I know folks don't want to hear that, but it's going to take time. But I like the growth that he's shown from day one to now.
Yeah, I said before when they drafted him, I really like his game. I know some folks were, a little, a little hesitant because he played what's a 6-man, at Florida State last year, and he's only 19. I think that's what people need to remember. He's far from a finished product, and he knows this. So look, I mean, he's definitely got the got the game, and just needs to be more polished, and he has said that. So look, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. I mean, we got a competent coaching staff, mentoring him and guiding him. So I think that next year he will only be better. Whether or not who else is there with him besides Levine, that's that's up for discussion. But I think he can only get better.
I want to talk about Zach LaVine for a moment. Look, you mentioned he scored only 15 points on Sunday, which is good because he doesn't have to carry the team. But as we mentioned on the show for the entire season, I like the way Zach has stepped up to another level. Of course, it's shown from his All-Star berth, the first of his career. He's getting after it defensively. He doesn't have to take every shot now. He could be that playmaker like Kobe White, which we'll get to in a minute. Zach could be that playmaker, but he needs help. But for the limit of talent, the limit of talent that this Bulls roster is lacking right now, he has to do everything. But he doesn't have to be just a scorer right now. I like the aspects of his game, and he's trying to become that complete player that you need for a championship team. Of course, this Bulls team nowhere near a championship yet, but he's grown this year. He's willing to take that alpha dog mentality, and that's what I like from him right now.
Yeah, look, and I'm sure he's okay with not having to be the top scorer all the time, spread out. I mean, look, I think, as long as he's doing what you want him to do, be the facilitator, sort of, help develop, the plays and whatnot, and develop a shot, and be there to sort of, pick up the slack in case somebody else, lacks in production. I mean, yes, he didn't have his best game, okay, but he didn't need to. The balance was there, so. I'm okay with, him being sort of like the guy. And look, sometimes being the guy is, letting the others sort of shine every once in a while. It's fine. So.
And Kobe White, who is now coming off the bench, this may be his permanent role as a Chicago Bull. That remains to be seen. But he scored 13 points in 27 minutes, including 2 of 8 from three-point land. He contributed 5 assists and grabbed 4 rebounds. Lakina, do you think that Kobe White should remain on the bench for the remainder of the season?
I think so. I mean, we know he's not a point guard. He's never been a point guard. He's more of a shooting guard. So, but unfortunately, the Bulls don't have an actual point guard right now. So that's why he's sort of playing that role. Look, this is more his style. This is more, to his game. And look, we don't want you to have to play the point, just shoot and perhaps maybe make a pass every once in a while if you need to, and probably have a block. He had a block. Maybe have a couple of steals too. So, look, he's only 21, so let's remember that he's also still a very young kid. So still a young guy, I should say. So his game's only getting better and only developing more. So I want to wait. I know some people say, well, let's get rid of him. No. Let's wait until how he does. It looks like he might have found a home coming off the bench, at least for right now. So let's just let's see where this goes.
All right, before we move on to the rest of the association, the best stuff from the weekend, here is the Bulls' schedule for this upcoming week. Tonight, they'll host the Oklahoma City Thunder at 7 o'clock. Of course, tomorrow, which is Wednesday, they'll host the San Antonio Spurs at 7 o'clock. Both those games, the OKC game and the San Antonio games, will be at the United Center. And, of course, on Friday, they'll start a quick 2-game road trip. Friday, they'll be at Denver at 8 o'clock. This is Central Standard Time, of course. And then next Sunday, they'll be at Detroit at 6 p.m., of course, and then next Monday they'll host the Utah Jazz at the UC. So a tough schedule coming up, looking up for the Bulls, as we mentioned for the last couple of weeks coming out of the All-Star break. This early part of the second half of the schedule will make or break this team for the season in terms of competing for the playoffs. I see a couple of winnable games there, starting with tonight's game against Oklahoma City. It's not going to be easy. Of course, if you remember, they played at OKC early this season. They blew a big 20-point lead, and they lost the game in overtime. So the Bulls better have revenge on their minds here. And, of course, tomorrow they'll face the San Antonio Spurs. No LaMarcus Aldridge, but Greg Popovich will have that team ready. Of course, you were at Denver on Friday. You may consider that a loss for Chicago, and then you're at Detroit on Sunday. So you have two wins on paper, but this Bulls team better come ready to play and not take anything for granted.
Especially if they want to try to make a playoff push, So
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I'm sure Coach Don will have his guys ready.
Yeah, we saw the lackluster effort last Thursday against Philadelphia. Of course, the bad loss a night later to the Miami Heat. That was not good, but it was nice to see this Bulls team show up on Sunday with a big win against Toronto. Lakina, let's move on to the association now. What was the best games or best moments you saw over the weekend?
Anthony Edwards. I mean, maybe look, if you're a T-Wolves fan, maybe you might find something to cheer about. I mean, this guy is special. He became the youngest player in T-Wolves history to have a 30-point game on Sunday, and which is crazy because with KG and with Karl Anthony Towns, it's crazy that this is the first time that a rookie has had a 30-point game. He had 34 in their upset win over the Blazers. I mean, maybe there's something that the T-Wolves fans can kind of hang on to. They've had a pretty rough go this year. I think another performance. Let me see here. There were a couple of good ones. On Sunday night, that Sunday nighter, very impressive. Zion Williamson looked really good. The Pelicans blew out the Clippers. I don't know about you, Sid. I did not see that coming.
I didn't see it either.
Look, Zion had his best performance of the season, and the Clippers have struggled a little bit, coming out of the All-Star break. So I'm a little concerned there. Golden State, Steph Curry on his birthday, happy belated birthday to Mr. Curry. Kind of gave us a little bit of birthday present with a great performance. 32 points. Including 6 or 7 from the 3-point arc in their win against the Jazz. So there definitely is a couple of good performances. I kind of lingered back and forth between the NBA and college basketball. We'll get to later on in the podcast. But what about you, Sid? What stood out to you?
You saw one of my talking points as usual, but we think alike sometimes. The New Orleans Pelicans had a good weekend. They blew out the Cavaliers on Friday. As you mentioned, they destroyed the Clippers on national television on Sunday. Brandon Ingram is stepping up his game as well, along with Zion Williamson. The Pelicans are currently 16-22 as of this podcast. Will they finally make that push to get into the playoffs? That remains to be seen, but they're playing some good ball right now. The Lakers got back on track on Friday with a 105-100 win over the Indiana Pacers. They had to struggle a little bit to get the win, but Kyle Kuzma came up big with 24 points.
Oh, and another one for me, probably the best moment for this weekend for me in the NBA was Karis LeVert, for Indiana. Speaking of Indiana, he had 13 points, but it was actually his first game back since having a mass removed from the right side of his kidney, which, thankfully, if he had not gotten traded, who knows what would have happened. So his first game in the last couple of months, 13 points. Pacers upset the Suns, and Doug McDermott had probably his best performance in a while, had 22 off the bench. So there are Bulls fans remember that name. So he had 22 points along with Sabonis. So they had, and also, Matthew Braun also had 25, leaned the way there in their upset win over the Suns. So a nice little moment. It's nice to see Karis LeVert back on the court.
Yeah, congratulations to that young man. Hopefully things will be smooth for him in terms of his health. and he can resume his basketball career without any other setbacks. So a few games from Saturday that I want to hit on real quickly. Kenny, I did watch a couple of these via my computer, and those the Brooklyn Nets. They take care of the Detroit Pistons 100-95. James Harden led Brooklyn with a triple-double, 24 points, 10 dimes, and 10 rebounds. Blake Griffin, who's on the Nets, did not play against his former team. He's still on the injury list. Kevin Durant still out with a hamstring. The Pistons fought hard, but Brooklyn came through at the end. They made a couple of defensive plays. James Harden is, as I mentioned, threw down a triple-double. Bruce Brown, one of the unsung heroes for the Nets right now with all the injuries that this team is dealing with. I like the way Brooklyn's playing right now. Hopefully you can get those stars back that I mentioned. Kyrie did his thing. So Brooklyn, if they can get it together and get all those guys back, hopefully within soon, and so they could develop the chemistry come playoff time to make the run towards the finals. I like the way the Nets have been playing without their stars, but they need their stars ultimately at the end here. They want to reach their ultimate goal.
Another game that stood out to me would be with Dallas. Dallas, beating the Nuggets by 13. Kristaps Porzingis.
I watched that game via my computer in its entirety.
Yeah.
Kristaps Porzingis, look out here. Where did he come from?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was sort of the Porzingis that I think a lot of Knicks fans had hoped that they would see. Of course, because of injuries, also injuries. When he started his career at the Mavs, but 25 points for him, leading the way there. Of course, Luka had double, 21 and 12 assists. But I mean, look, I think that maybe they're 20-17. The Mavs are starting to kind of pull it together a little bit, and I guess all those reports of Rick Carlisle being fired were greatly exaggerated. Obviously, now that everybody's back healthy, it looks like the Mavs are kind of finally being the team that we all thought they would be.
Are you hopping on that bandwagon finally?
I'm kind of more of a wait and see mode. They're an 8th seed in the West right now, and I kind of want to see how they do with as we go on in the second half of the season. They got some tough games coming up, so I want to see how they do against some of those teams. We'll get to them in a minute.
Also from Saturday, congratulations to Carmelo Anthony as he surpasses Hakeem Olajuwon in the all-time NBA scoring list. He added 26 points for Portland as they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 125-121. I'm hopping on this team's bandwagon, the Portland Trailblazers. Like I said before, as soon as they get their guys back healthy, hopefully with C.J. McCollum and Jusuf Nurkic, this team could be in play as far as making a surprise run in the tough Western Conference. Will they be a player for LaMarcus Aldridge, as we mentioned in our last podcast? That remains to be seen. Or could there be a team on the low that could lure in Andre Drummond? We shall see.
Yeah, should be very interesting to see where he goes once they agree on a buyout and such, because I think that's still sort of to be determined. I mean, there were various reports that say maybe he'll go to Brooklyn, but is there anywhere for him to fit there? So I'm kind of skeptical on that, but we'll see. I mean, it should be very interesting to see where he goes.
Yes, going back to Sunday's games, the Boston Celtics get back on track as they defeated the Rockets 134-107. The Rockets, of course, they're rebuilding. Jason Tatum came through with 23 points to lead the Celtics. Kenyon Martin Jr., yes, that Kenyon Martin who played for the Nuggets and the Nets back in the day, his son led the Rockets with 21 points and 4 rebounds.
Making us all feel old. Yay. Yeah. Just to see a lot of these guys who we grew up, watching play now have offspring playing. It's just cool. It's cool, but it makes you feel old. Jeez. Now, coming back to earth here, talking about the games that we got coming up this week, we got some good ones. The first, tonight at 6:30 Chicago time, doubleheader on TNT. You got Utah and Boston. That should be a good one there.
Yes, Celtics need to keep this rolling as there are 2 games above 500. The Jazz have stumbled a little bit. They're coming off a loss on Sunday at Golden State. They lost on the road big time. So big game for both teams.
New York and Philadelphia, that should be an interesting one there at 7 o'clock. Of course, we mentioned OKC and Chicago. New Orleans and Portland, that's the second half of that TNT doubleheader tonight. That should be a lot of fun, too.
Oh, yes. Zion versus Carmelo versus Dame Dollar. So that should be a whole lot of fun. Going back to Philadelphia just a moment, Lakina, before we get to Wednesday's action. Joel Embiid in the blowout win last Friday against Washington injured his knee. Thank goodness no structural damage. He's currently out for a couple of weeks. He'll be reevaluated by then. As we mentioned on this podcast, as I mentioned, he's a top candidate for MVP for this season. I know Damian Lillard is mentioned up there as well, along with LeBron James. But thank goodness that Joel Embiid has no structural damage in that left knee.
I'm sure Sixers fans breathed a collective sigh of relief when that news
Yes.
came out that it's just a very, very deep bone bruise, but, no structural damage to the MCL nor the ACL. So, Sixers definitely dodged a bullet there. So hopefully he can come back in a couple of weeks and, return. So, because he's been really good and probably perhaps a front runner for MVP, no doubt. All right, going into the Wednesday matchups, this game isn't televised, but I'll probably watch it via my laptop. Brooklyn and Indiana, that should be a fun one there in Indianapolis.
Yep. Ooh. Let's see. Oh, my mic's on. Okay. Yeah, Brooklyn and Indianapolis, that should be fun. This happens with technology, folks.
live, folks.
Yeah, this should, like you said, this should be fun. James Harden again leads the Brooklyn Nets. Will Blake Griffin make his debut with the Nets? We shall see. Kevin Durant, who knows when their hamstring will heal? Those types of injuries are tricky, but I doubt that he'll play in that one. But like you said, it still should be fun. The ESPN doubleheader game for tomorrow night will be Milwaukee at Philadelphia. Of course, Joel Embiid, as we mentioned a moment ago, is out, but you still have the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I want to see what he does without Embiid. How many times will he drive the lane and dunk the ball?
Could probably be a dunk fest there with that game, no doubt.
Yeah.
Miami and Memphis at 8:00. That should be an interesting one. There, you got Jimmy Butler against John Morant. That should be fun over there.
Yeah, Miami's turning around.
Memphis is kind of starting to be up and down, so it's coming back from their long pause and some of the various injuries that they had. So that'll be an interesting game to watch, no doubt. Charlotte and Denver should be another interesting one. Charlotte's a I'm
looking forward to that one. Yes,
very scrappy young team. We know about Denver, and they've been sort of, you thought that maybe they're getting it together, but then they have a couple of losses and they're back to kind of being where they started. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they look.
Yep, and wrapping up the Wednesday night action, 8:30 p.m. Chicago time on ESPN. The second game of the doubleheader will be the Los Angeles Clippers at the Dallas Mavericks. Of course, the Mavericks, as we mentioned before, they're starting to turn it around. The Clippers, they're going to try to rebound after their loss at New Orleans on Sunday night. A big game for both teams here. It's a rematch of last year's first-round playoff matchup. This should be a whole lot of fun. Let's see if Kristaps Porzingis will continue his hot scoring streak. Let's see if Luka can put on another masterful performance in front of a national TV audience.
This is sort of the game where I want to see how Dallas looks, kind of before I try to, get back on that bandwagon, if you will, as far as the Mavs is concerned. Going to Thursday, probably not too many good ones. I think maybe New Orleans and Portland, but I'm surprised that game is not being televised nationally anywhere. That's a 9:00 game. I'll be watching that via my laptop.
Good call. NBA TV has a doubleheader for Thursday. The first game at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. You'll have the Utah Jazz facing the Washington Wizards in our nation's capital. Following that game at 9:30 p.m. will be the Charlotte Hornets taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James versus LaMelo Ball. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm glad to see the Hornets finally getting some shine on the national stage.
It'll be interesting to see if they can keep up with the Lakers. I know the Lakers have struggled lately, without Anthony Davis. So this should be a really fun, like sort of like old-fashioned, playground type, game show. This should actually be pretty fun. You guys can check it out on NBA TV on Thursday.
Yes, and for Friday is college basketball. We'll be taking over most of our televisions. There's a couple of interesting games to look forward to this coming Friday at 7:00 Chicago time. This is the Indiana Pacers traveling to Florida to face Alana Techauer, friend of the show. It's Miami Heat.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one there with with the Pacers and the Heat. I mean, two teams are kind of like right there in the playoff chase, right in the middle. So should be a very interesting game. Utah and Toronto at 7 o'clock. That should be an interesting
Hmm.
one. Too. Golden State and Memphis. You got Steph against Ja, sort of like I don't want to call Steph the old guard, but he's
Yeah.
33 now. He's kind of he's over 30, so he kind of get up there. He's just sort of versus the young John Moran, who's still not even 21 yet. So that's sort of absurd, but that's that's another thing. But that should be a fun one.
Yeah. Also, besides our Bulls traveling to Denver to face the Nuggets at 9 p.m. on NBA TV, you'll have the Dallas Mavericks traveling to Portland to face Dame Dollar and the Portland Trail Blazers. Logo 3, Damian Lillard. So that game should be a whole lot of fun as well.
That'll be on NBA TV. So if you guys don't have NBA TV, you can watch it via your respective devices. So
yes.
So don't feel bad if you don't have NBA TV, guys. Don't worry. There are other ways you can watch this game, which should be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, Lakina, do we have enough time left in this segment, or do we need to take a 20?
We got a few more minutes left.
Okay. Let's go to college basketball real quick then. As we have a few minutes left, as our referee for this segment is Lakina McGee. We did a March Madness preview show. You can catch that on War Media. We had Athlon Sports Gabe Salgado on, and he broke down the tournament and gave us his thoughts about which upsets could happen. Does Illinois have a chance to perhaps win the national title? We get into more in that with him. Check that out at War Media on YouTube. Once again, at WAR Media. We'll just give you our synopsis here as far as looking at the brackets are concerned. Lakina, let's get away from Illinois for just a second. Let's go to that bracket where I believe it's the West bracket where Gonzaga is the number 1 seed. They're the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. I know some people have said that they had the easiest path to the Final Four. They may be on paper, but I see a couple of teams that could challenge them here. I'm looking at whoever wins that 8-9 game between Oklahoma and Missouri, perhaps challenging Gonzaga, maybe Virginia, but don't sleep on number 2 Iowa, especially with Luka Garza.
And remember what I said though, what Kyle and I both said on the preview said. I mean, I'm not look. We're not saying that they can they'll be upset, but look, that Grand Canyon, that's a veteran Grand Canyon squad. You got Bryce Drew there. Look, he knows how to pull off upsets. Having done so as a player and the assistant coach, so let's not go past. I'm sure the Hawkeyes won't look past them, but that's probably gonna be one of those interesting games at 15/2. We haven't had one in a while, so we'll see what happens with that one. I'm getting, like I said, I'm getting old Big 8, Big 12 vibes with Oklahoma and Missouri playing. I'm super excited for that. That should be a fun matchup there. Two teams that OU likes to shoot. Missouri is sort of a scrappy race down the court type of team. So I'm looking forward to that one. And look, I look like you said, so I really think that whoever wins that will definitely give Gonzaga a hard time. And I don't agree with the synopsis that Gonzaga's got the easiest bracket. I mean, look, I know that they played like a couple of these teams and they beat them pretty easily. But again, March is a totally different animal. Plus the way it's set up, since you're going to be in the state of Indiana. So I kind of would like to sort of put tell folks to slow down on that take.
And also, too, don't forget number 3, Kansas. They've gotten their act together over the last few weeks. I know they had to check out of the Big 12 tournament because of COVID. I know 2 or 3 of their players won't make the trip for the first round, but don't forget about them either. And they're ranked number 3 in the West bracket behind Iowa and Gonzaga. Let's move over to the East bracket.
One more thing though with the West, the 12/5, we might see UCSB with Creighton, the way they looked in the Big East title game. They looked awful. Don't take UCSB don't take the Gauchos like it. Also, Evan Mobley is a guy you guys should look out for USC. That USC team is really good. They get to play the Wichita State Drake winner. Again, getting old Missouri Valley Conference vibes from that one. So that should be a fun one too.
Yeah, now let's finally move to the East bracket. Of course, the number 1, Michigan has the number 1 seed in that region. Of course, Isaiah Livers is currently injured with stress fracture in his foot. We don't know if he's going to play the first couple of games or not. Stay tuned for that. for that new see if he plays. But I'm looking at the 12-5 game, looking in between Colorado and Georgetown. Of course, Georgetown is in with a 13-12 record, winning the Big East tournament in NYC. I think they're going to be America's sentimental pick to pull off the upset. We all know that at least one 12-5 upset happens every year. Could we get two, or we just get one? This tournament is maybe like any other. That's what we like about March Madness, the predictability of it.
Definitely a tongue twister there, Sid.
Yes.
I mean, the tongue twister, but yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a very trendy 12-5 upset. I mean, look, Georgetown has looked really good. I mean, Javon Blair, who, a guy that some of you probably never heard of, or because you haven't watched the Georgetown hoops. But look, let's give Georgetown some credit. I mean, this was a team that was picked to finish last in their conference in the Big East. Yes, even worse than DePaul. Yes, that's what it's just true. Well, go look through the predictions, from earlier this season. Trust me, it's there. I'm not telling a fib here. But I mean, I think they got together at the right time. I think Patrick Ewing is channeling his coach and mentor, John Thompson, who had, of course, had his success who they both had success in the tournament. So they're definitely going to be a trendy pick to, perhaps maybe pull off a Cinderella run, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and don't forget about Alabama, the Crimson Tide. They won the SEC conference tournament by a couple of points over LSU on Sunday. They are the number 2 seed in this region. I think they could give Michigan trouble. It depends on if Isaiah Livers plays or not. And you also have number 4 Florida State. Look out for them as well.
I mean, yeah, this should be an interesting one there. The first 4-11, you got Michigan State and UCLA. I know some people are kind of like weirded out by the fact they got two historic programs playing against each other in the first 4, but that should be a fun one there. And whoever gets to play BYU. They're kind of like a lot of big guys on that team, so that should be a fun one. Texas is another team that people should be looking out for. So that should be a fun one. Fresh off winning the first ever Big 12 title. Conference tournament title, I should say, which is crazy, but yeah, it's the very first. So I really like that team. Andrew Jones, is great. His story is phenomenal too. Shaka Smart too. So that should be a fun one. I think Michigan probably has the toughest side of the draw, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. As I said just a moment ago, look out for Alabama, and I think they can make a surprise one. Don't be surprised if they upset Michigan.
Yeah. All right, let's go south there, Sid. You got Baylor as the number 1 seed in that side of the bracket. What games are you looking forward to?
A couple of games that jumps out at me. Number 8, North Carolina versus number 9, Wisconsin. Of course, North Carolina struggled a little bit to end the regular season, but they turned it around over the last few weeks. Wisconsin, they've really struggled down the stretch here, including they lost at home to Illinois about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're ranked number 9 in this bracket. As we said before, Lakina, every year the 8-9 game, sometimes the 7-10 as well, but definitely the 8-9 matchup. You just toss up a coin and pick a winner in that one. This one looks like it's going to be another toss-up game here for me. If I had to make a pick today, I would go with North Carolina. It's just that sometimes you can struggle at the end of the season and get it together come tournament time. I just don't see that with Wisconsin. I could see it with North Carolina. I'm going with Carolina if I had to pick today.
Should be an interesting one there. Whoever gets out of that one facing Baylor, that should be a fun one regardless. Another 5-12, a lot of people are picking Winthrop over Villanova. Villanova lost a couple of key guys late in the year. Winthrop actually is one of those really good teams that they only have a couple of losses. So some people are actually picking that as a 5-12 upset. So we'll see. It could happen.
Yeah, this makes sense because Gillespie, I know, is out for Villanova, and also, too, Villanova was one of those teams that lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament, and they struggled a bit to end the regular season as well. So I can see the logic behind that.
And our girl Lila Rahimi would not forgive us if we didn't have her alma mater, at least mention them. The meet and greet of North Texas, they play Purdue. I just think Purdue just has too much firepower. I mean, they beat the number 1 seed West Kentucky in the Conference USA tournament. That's how they got in. But I don't think there'll be a match for Purdue. Sorry, Lil, we love you, but we don't think that's going to happen.
Agreed. Also, the 7-10 matchup, we have Florida taking on Virginia Tech. This is another toss-up contest, in my opinion. Florida, no, they're not as strong team as they were in years past, but they're still good enough to get a number 7 seed coming out of the SEC. Tech has struggled as well. You could toss up a coin and pick a winner and just go blindfold.
You could probably just do the any, meeny, miny, mo method with that, because I think that either one of them could definitely win this game, because they're pretty evenly matched. And like remember we said, Tech, just got out of a pause, last week, so right before the ACC tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And Seth Davis from CBS, who look we like and respect, but he has Colgate beating Arkansas. Look, I've seen Colgate a couple of times. They're very similar styles. It could be like a first 120 wins, but I don't think they'll be able to beat Arkansas. I just don't see it. Sorry, Seth, but I just don't see it happening.
Watch out for number 2 Ohio State coming out this bracket. I know people think that Baylor may have an easy road, sort of not easier than Gonzaga, but Ohio State, even if they would have beaten Illinois on Sunday for the Big Ten tournament title, they still would have had a number 2 seed. And as I said to you a couple of weeks ago, Lakeem, watch out for Ohio State. I know people talk about Iowa and Purdue and Michigan, but Ohio State could make some noise, surprisingly, coming out of the South bracket.
Should be look. I really like the Ohio State team. We saw them yesterday, a couple of days ago against Illinois in the Big Ten tournament. I think that'll be a very interesting, they're a very interesting team to watch, no doubt. And also, too, the 6-11 matchup, Texas Tech and Utah State, both, teams play very different styles. And I'm looking forward to that game and, to see what they can do, because, we saw what Tech can do. We saw Utah State has had some success. So that should be an interesting one coming out of that part of the bracket. Let's go to the Midwest, Sid, last but not least, where Illinois is. I told you, Sid, that this would happen, that they would put Loyola in the same side of the bracket as Illinois, because we all know that the committee likes to have a little bit of a sense of humor sometimes. Yes. Just to make people go insane. Look, I'm okay with their seed. I know some people thought that maybe they should have been like a 5 or a 6, but I'm okay with them being an 8 seed because of the fact that they really didn't play anybody. I mean, they split their season with Drake. That's probably the only real, I don't want to say the real win, but that's just it is what it is. But look, that Georgia Tech team, don't look past them. I know people kind of came out, but they've been kind of right there all season. Of course, they had to win to get in, and they win the ACC and get in, and they did. Jose Arenado is one guy. We talked about him last on the preview show. But I think that Josh Pastner has his team playing inspired hoops, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled off if they go far.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And taking a look at that Midwest bracket, also too, you have San Diego State versus Syracuse. I know some people complain that they shouldn't have gotten in the tournament, or they were one of the last teams to get in. That should be an interesting game. West Virginia, they're led by Bob Huggins. He always has teams competitive every year, so I expect them to get past Morehead State. But Houston, I know they're going to take care of Cleveland State. That's the 2-15 game, but Houston could make some noise in this bracket. I'm not saying they're going to upset Illinois, but I can see Houston making a Sweet 16 one, maybe a Final 8, but definitely Sweet 16.
Well, yeah, but that should be very interesting too. Also, the 7-10, you got Clemson, Rutgers. Rutgers had to wait a year, but for the first time since '91, they're going to be playing in a tournament game, so that should be a fun one there against Clemson. Houston, though, look, that Cleveland State team is actually really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, because I kind of feel like Kelvin Sampson is due to make a big run in the tournament. I think this is going to be, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy for Illinois, but like I said, again, they're going to have a very tough time, whether it's Loyola or Georgia Tech, they're going to have a very tough time. I mean, our buddy Kyle said that the one thing he's concerned with Illinois is, will they be able to sustain it for 6 games? There's a reason why it's hard to do. So, and look, we know about, Cameron Crowell and Lucas Williamson out of Loyola. You got, Alvin Alvarado from, and also Michael DeVoe, who was the All ACC. I think he made second team All ACC. Who was actually the leading scorer there for Georgia Tech. So That's going to be a very interesting, part of the record for Illinois. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in the Midwest region.
Before we wrap up this segment, of course, the first 4 games will take place on Thursday on True TV. You have Norfolk State versus Appalachian State, Wichita State versus Drake, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it's the best out of these 4. Then you have Mount St. Mary's versus Texas Southern, and then you'll have Michigan State against UCLA. I think Michigan State's going to take their anger out on UCLA. I expect Michigan State to roll in that one. Wichita State and Drake, that's a toss-up for me. That's like one of those 7-10, 8-9 games. Let's toss the ball up and get it on.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, look, it's going to be very interesting with these first 4s. I mean, I'm kind of sort of like in that realm of, it's sort of weird to have these first 4, especially when you have both HBCU schools in the first 4. Like I said,
yeah.
A couple of days ago, like really NCAA, come on now. But I mean, look, I mean that Michigan State UCLA, that might as well. You can probably say that I'm sure they've met in the national championship game, or at least like deep in the championship. A few times over. So I'm looking forward. That should be a fun one. But look, UCLA is no slouch, though. I wouldn't, put it all, Michigan State's going to take it out of UCLA. I mean, UCLA, they may have something to say about that.
Yes, they will, Tom. Izzo always has his team ready for this time of year. Whether he has the best team or not, he really gets those kids coached up and ready to go. So I would be surprised if he didn't do that this year, especially playing the first 4 game against UCLA. Now, Lakina, let's take this 20-second timeout as we'll roll on the other side on Second City Sports. We have some baseball news to talk about. Is there a deal between MLB and YouTube? Also, we'll have a whole lot of football to talk about. There's been a couple of signings, a retirement in there, and also a possible trade proposal presented to you by Dan Orlovsky of ESPN. And we'll have a whole lot more fun as well. You're listening to Second City Sports. I'm Sidney Brown along with Lakina McGee. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style?
Along with Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown, which is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com for more details. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. You can follow War Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. You can listen to this podcast, Second City Sports, along with the other podcast programming from War Media by simply going to War on Anchor, which keeps you over to Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and the iHeartRadio app. Don't forget to type in that search engine box on all podcast download platforms, WARR on Anchor. Also, we are on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media on the YouTube. You can not only listen to us, but watch us do our thing live as we blow kisses and take our bows. Thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we are unapologetically fun. Before we move on, Lakina, to the NFL, you have a couple of college basketball nuggets to get to.
Yes, a couple of coaching moves really quick. Archie Miller, both in the Big Ten. Archie Miller has been let go over Indiana. He had a 12-15 record this season. Didn't make a tournament for the first 4 years he's been there. That's going to be a sought after job. Not a total surprise, but kind of one that is surprising though. Minnesota, according to Jeff Goodman anyway, is expected to part ways with Richard Pitino. So, and I'm just saying, even though they still got a coach there at DePaul, but Richard Pitino is probably someone that should be going. He'll probably have a lot of sought after a name that's going to be. I'm sure his name is probably going to be. I don't expect him to be off the market long. I think you got a couple of schools, New Mexico, DePaul should be vie for his services. But I'm just we'll save that for another episode for another podcast. As I said, I know you got a shout out to his dad.
Yeah, shout out to Daddy Rick Pitino as he is coaching the Iona squad, who's in the NCAA tournament for this year. He is the only coach to take 5 different programs to the NCAA tournament. So congratulations to him.
I mean, look, I mean, just despite everything he's done off the court, you can't really dispute his amazing success on the court. They have a tough one against Loyola. They'll probably be blown out, but the fact that he's done what he's done, 5 schools and from 6 different conferences, is just amazing. So he should definitely get his props.
Yes, and you're the only person in Chicago that gives a damn about men's DePaul basketball.
Well, look, I just keep kind of like an eye to it. I don't like. I care a little bit, but I'm just like, okay, that I'm hoping that Dwayne Pave, I think that's how you say his name, gets a chance to bring in his own guy, because Leitao should have been gone. But again, another episode for another podcast. So let's go to the NFL gridiron, shall we, Sid?
Yes.
We'll do. What do you want to do first? You want to do the free agency moves first, or do you want to do Drew Brees first?
We'll do Drew Brees because that news dump came in prior to the announcements of the brackets for the NCAA Tournament. Drew Brees has officially announced his retirement. As we all expected, he played in the NFL for 20 years, 15 of those years with the New Orleans Saints. He has numerous accomplishments. To mention, he was the Super Bowl MVP during the 2009 season, as the Saints had their one and only Super Bowl in franchise history, defeating the Indianapolis Colts down there in Miami. He's a 13-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro in 2006, 4-time second-team All-Pro, 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year in 2010. That was the year that the Saints won the Super Bowl. Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year 2010, Burt Bell Award winner in 2009, Walter Payton Man of the Year Award in 2006, NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2004, Maxwell Award winner in 2000, and 2-time Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. And going to the NFL record books held by Drew Brees include most career passing yards, most career pass completions, highest career completion percentage, most pass completions in a season, highest single season completion percentage, highest single season game completion percentage, and most touchdowns passes in a game, tied with Peyton Manning. And also, he holds the record for most consecutive games with a touchdown pass. Lakina, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. If you guys watching on War Media on YouTube, I have my Drew Brees jersey hanging up behind me. Too many accomplishments to mention as I tried to do there, but he is the first ballot Hall of Famer. He, along with head coach Sean Payton, revitalized that New Orleans Saints franchise. Of course, if you guys may remember that Hurricane Katrina hit that region hard, including the city of New Orleans. Of course, Drew Brees was supposed to sign with the Miami Dolphins that offseason. Then head coach Nick Saban was recruiting him hard, but he failed the physical due to the shoulder injury he suffered in San Diego the previous season. And then, of course, Sean Payton was hired as Saints head coach, and he went after Drew Brees. Of course, the rest is history. So Drew Brees is perhaps the greatest New Orleans Saints player of all time. They were not known for much before then. They were known for Archie Manning. Of course, he's the famous father of Peyton and Eli Manning. Those Saints teams, especially during his time, weren't winners at all. They didn't even go to the playoffs. But the Saints image has changed forever thanks to those two gentlemen. Congrats to Drew Brees on a great career. Now he'll be doing work for NBC Sports, but he will do work for Sunday Night Football in the studio, and he'll also be doing calling games, I'm assuming, with Mike Tirico for Notre Dame football as well. I
mean, you listed all his accomplishments. I mean, there's just so many, and just. I know. I'm saying, take a breather for a second, and rehydrate, because look, I mean, he definitely will get in first ballot. I mean, just amazing accomplishments. Some of the passing records he holds, and is still well ahead in a lot of instances. The passing yards, he's well ahead, completions as well. I mean, look, I know that some people will, because how some folks are, they'll say, well, he said, what he said last year, and he should be canceled or whatever. But look, we're not fans of that. Look, the man has done well both on and off the field, and he apologized, and is becoming more nuanced in what you want to see in that realm. So, look, I think he definitely deserves it. Now, the interesting thing is that the Saints actually, they don't have any jerseys retired. So I can see, some people, in New Orleans are lobbying for him to get his jersey retired. We'll see if they do that, but we don't know if they will do that because that's something that the Saints just don't do. The franchise hasn't done. So I'm very interested to see do they do that for him, and I'm interested to see what he's going to do. Once now that he's finished playing. I mean, he had his 4 kids. Do the announcement for him, which was really really cute and adorable. He's going to be doing NBC Sports. That was kind of set in stone 2 years ago. That'll be interesting to see what he does. As an analyst, and also too as a game analyst, he'll be doing Notre Dame games, like you said, and Mike Tirico kind of welcome him to the family. So I'm looking forward to see what he does, on the TV side. We know he's got a great personality. We've seen him do stuff, with various shows and whatnot. So I think he can do it. And look, it'll be interesting to see what the Saints go from here on the field, because that he must have a big void. That's a big void there that the Saints will have to fill out.
And I noticed that the news, if you notice, Lakina, on Sunday, the news snuck in right before March Madness, as I mentioned at the top. But the other news regarding the Saints that snuck in right behind the Drew Brees retirement, they re-signed Taysom Hill for 4 years.
Well, they actually restructured his contract.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of like, they did it last year that they re-signed him, but in this case, they kind of restructured his deal that opens up a lot of, which, look, we've seen this, that a lot of teams have had to restructure deals. We'll get to the Bears and what they had to do in a minute, but, all the years they're voidable for those years, and it's sort of the free up cap space. It saves the Saints over $7.5 million, this coming season in cap space, which they were well over the cap. So I'm not surprised that they restructured his contract. I mean, look, we've seen teams do that. Look what the Bears did, restructuring Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson and Cody Whitehair's deals, basically giving those bonuses now, and that saves them about $25 million.
Yeah, 23, yeah.
So, this is sort of like something that teams have to do to kind of get under the cap. We'll get to some of the free agent moves that have, transpired in a minute, but I'm interested to see what, look, we said that there are going to be some names that have, going to have to, restructure their deals. So I'm looking forward to see what more these NFL teams will have to do to kind of get under that cap.
Jameis Winston is still out there as a free agent quarterback. I assume that the Saints are going to re-sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal. Let's just say that doesn't happen. Do you think that the Bears will actually get a sniff at Mr. Winston?
I mean, I don't know if
I don't sense it, but I would not be surprised.
I've read somewhere, I don't know if it was Biggs or somebody, Brad Biggs, of course, from the Tribune, a long time in Bears insider for the Trib, but I saw somewhere that they were trying to get, try to pass, maybe they'll make a play for Jameis Winston, which I'm kind of like, I mean, a guy, he's good, but again, he throws a lot of interceptions, so I'm kind of like, interesting, but I've heard some people say that maybe Drew Lock. Maybe I don't know what the heck's gonna happen here. So, I'm just like, okay, as the Bears QB world turns, and I should have had the as the world turns music from back in the day with Dan Regent with the doing the voiceover, because I think this is just another one of those. I don't know. My head's hurting at this point. My head's exploding.
Yeah. Whose head hurts even more is wide receiver Allen Robinson. Of course, he was franchise tag last week. As we told you on this show, that it was going to happen. Now, for the reasons why the Bears did that, is debatable. But Mr. Robinson is franchise tagged. If you're Allen Robinson, technically he doesn't have to sign a contract right now. He can wait back and see which quarterback will show up here to play. Will it be Mitch? Yes, it's a possibility. I know some Bears fans don't want me to say this, but it's a possibility. Nick Foles is technically on the roster right now. Do you draft one in this upcoming draft if that Russell Wilson trade, which we'll talk about in a minute, someone brought it up on television the other day. If Russell Wilson doesn't happen, or the Deshaun Watson acquisition doesn't happen, if you're Allen Robinson, you can sit back to literally before the day before this upcoming season starts and say, well, I'm not playing this year, or I'm waiting for that quarterback to sign, because right now it's not good.
Yeah, it
The
really
options
is.
are very limited, as we talked
It
about for the last few weeks.
it's very slim pickings, Sid. I mean, we've been talking
Yeah.
about it for the last few weeks. I mean, there really isn't much out there, right? I mean, like I said, just now. I mean, some people said maybe Drew Lock might be might be somebody the Bears might look at. I don't know. I mean, we've heard Mac Jones are looking at him. Maybe Trey Lance, assuming that he's still available. But it's just that it looks like Derek Carr is going to stay with the Raiders. And Winston, is he really somebody that will get Bears fans amped up? I just don't
No.
see it. I
I'll
don't
say it right
know.
now. No. No.
Okay, you covered it
Like,
for
like,
me.
like say, if he's brought here, yeah, the Bears are trying to win. At least that's the perception that this management has given us, the fans. They're in a win now mode, 8-8, barely sneaking in. Especially after you started last year 5-1, it's not going to cut it. If that's the case, Lakina, we all know management in professional sports can be two-faced sometimes, including the Bears.
Yes, that's true. That is very true. It's a
But
it's a
let's just
business.
say that's the message right now, that Pace and Nagy have to get their act together, which we all know in reality they need to, both of them. Does
Oh,
Jameis Winston really do it for you? If you're trying to win right now, I get it, but is he the answer? No.
yeah. Like I said, it's very
He's a
slim
better fit for the
pickings.
Saints for the next couple of years than he is here in Chicago.
Oh, I think now that Brees is retired, I know a lot of the teammates, especially when Brees, bruised his ribs, cracked his ribs, or his rib injury, I should say. They're so the Saints players were lobbying for Winston to get the starting nod. I'm sure they're going to be people. They're going to be still lobbying for him to come in because he knows the offense, and how's he going to learn? He's still young enough to to be improved upon. So I'm interested to see what the Saints do here, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see what direction they decide to go.
Speaking of other quarterback news, we didn't get to it on our last episode, Lakina, but over the weekend, Cam Newton has re-signed with the New England Patriots for 1 year. The deal is worth up to $14 million. Of course, last year Cam struggled. He had COVID. He missed a few games. When he came back, he didn't look like his old self. The Patriots finished 7-9, of course. 6 defensive players sat out last year due to COVID concerns. They'll be back this year, including Dante Hightower, who became a father for the first time. So New England, I kind of think they'll get back on track. Of course, Bill Belichick, the head coach, is still there, obviously. But they need some playmakers. I know the tight end from the Tennessee Titans signed with them yesterday for a couple years. And Julian Edelman, that wide receiver, I know he was injured last year. He's supposed to be back this year. Well, but they need a number one wide receiver, at least someone that can play a number one wide receiver. Do you think they can go get Kenny Galladay from Detroit?
I've seen his name being floated around, perhaps maybe for the Giants, but that turns out that wasn't the case. I've heard some people say maybe the Ravens might try to make a play for him. But if you're anybody, do you really want to go to New England? I mean, Cam's going to be a year older. Yes, the Patriots will have all those defensive guys, like you mentioned, coming back. They have Stephen Gilmore, but again, those guys are all a year older. So do you really think? I know that I think Belichick has saw what Brady did without him. I think there's going to be like the egos coming in saying, well, look, maybe I can do it without him too. So I think that's kind of what's driving this. I'm kind of surprised that Cam decided to go back to the Patriots. I was kind of surprised when I saw that news on Friday morning. Like, oh really? That's interesting, but. We'll see. I mean, that's going to be a tough division for them, because I don't think the Bills are going to try that will have taken control of that division, and or probably will not let it go. So it'll be interesting though, no doubt. Once we do our division previews later this year, we'll just see what happens with the Patriots and see if Buffalo makes any moves.
Yeah, the Jets are in shambles right now. I'm sure they'll draft a rookie quarterback, Sam Darnold. Will they get rid of him? The Miami Dolphins still have Tua. Will he be their starting quarterback for this upcoming season? That remains to be seen. So New England can be competitive if they get some pieces around Cam, because they were 7-9 last year, and you saw the mess of what they went through, including COVID. So if they can get a couple of playmakers here and there, especially at the wide receiver position, they should be competing for a playoff spot, a wild card spot in 2021.
It's going to be a log jam there, though, in the AFC for a wild card spot, Sid.
It will be, and shall see what happens with the New England Patriots going forward. Hopefully, if you're a Patriots fan, they'll get some help for Cam Newton. Going to the defending world champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defensive end Shaquille Barrett has re-signed with the club for 4 years at $72 million. Lakina, as we talked about on this show for the last couple of weeks, Shaquille Barrett was their MVP on the way to their Super Bowl. You saw what he did in the NFC title game against the Packers. You saw what he did in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a no-brainer here. I really thought that he was going to leave and really test the market, but Tampa Bay was smart and re-signed him to a team-friendly deal.
Gotta give Jason props, right? I mean, he was able to. Look, I think a lot of people thought that he was going to go to free agency, Barrett. And test the market, but he decided, look, I love playing here, and I think he even stayed with Brady for a little bit, when he got, or I think that he stayed with him on, as he was coming into Tampa. But look, they got a nice contract. It works for both sides. 18 million per year, and that's sort of the base salary is 17. So look, that's a nice manageable deal for both sides. And look, I thought that maybe he probably could have gotten more than that, if he had gone somewhere else. But he said he loves playing in Tampa, and look, I think that they're trying to kind of load up to kind of are trying to get themselves together for another Super Bowl run next season, or this season, I should say, since the league started already or about to start.
It's going to be interesting to see what Tampa Bay does for the rest of this offseason with their free agents. Of course, they franchise tag wide receiver Chris Godwin. I want to see how long that he stays. We know that he was Brady's favorite target during their playoff run. Of course, you have Gronk out there. I'm assuming he's going to resign for one more year. You're not going to give him a whole lot of money because every team, their cap ceiling is $82.5 million. Of course, Antonio Brown's still out there as well. So I want to see what Tampa Bay does. Do they bring those two guys back, or do they let one of them or both of them go?
That's going to be the thing.
I can imagine letting Gronk go because he came down just to play with Brady.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, or will they have the money to resign both those guys? Like you said, they're kind of like more manageable now that they got Barrett in the fold. So we'll see. It's going to be very intriguing, no doubt. Any signings so far? Again, this is still very early in free agency, but any signings so far that has got you excited, or scratching your head, or like, huh?
Well, the Bears re-signing Mario Williams to a 3-year deal. I know he looked good in some spots last season. I think that's good news if you're a Chicago Bears fan. You need depth, especially in that defensive line. So we talked about before, Lakina. We'll mention their other defensive players in just a moment, but Eddie Goldman will be back next season in 2021. He opted out because of COVID concerns last year. So the Bears still trying to keep it together, especially on the defensive end. So that re-signing for Chicago was very important.
Yeah, I like that Mario.
For depth purposes.
Yeah, look, that's a nice deal for him, and he likes to say he looked good, in spots when he was there. So I really liked him, and we'll see. Like you said, it's more for depth because that's what they lacked last year. The Bears did. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little happy for him, and because he totally deserves that deal. Some sort of like the deals that that you would think wouldn't be important, but it turns out might be important. Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback for the 49ers, got a nice 5-year, $27 million deal. That's a nice set there. The Ravens got some much needed help in the O-line. They signed former Giants guard Kevin Zeitler to a 3-year deal, $21 million with $16 million guaranteed. They definitely need O-line help after what happened against the Bills, in the divisional round. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. The Vikings restructure Anthony Barr's deal, freeing up some money for them because they definitely desperately need it. So, and the Cardinals re-signed Dennis Gedrick to a 1-year deal. He was sort of kind of like the breakout star last year for that defense. Also, they got Zeke Turner, they tendered him, as a first refusal free agent, so meaning that that he can't really go anywhere. That's basically what that means. So with JJ Watt coming in, I mean, the Cardinals trying to shore up that defense, so they can try to kind of try to make a run at it.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to it, Lakina. Excuse me. As you're listening to Second City Sports, along with Lakina, I am Sydney Brown. As we're talking NFL free agency, now let's get to looks like another unnecessary chapter in the Russell Wilson saga to Chicago. I know Bears Twitter has been blowing up. People on their various radio shows and podcasts really want this move to happen. Dan Orlovsky, who I truly respect, he's a football analyst for ESPN. He was on the Get Up show, a.k.a. the Mike Greenberg show, on Monday, and he had a proposed trade for the Bears and Russell Wilson. Let's follow it, kids, step by step. The Bears will receive Russell Wilson. The Seahawks will receive Khalil Mack, Kyle Fuller, or Allen Robinson, and the Seahawks will get a third team. It was a 3-team deal, so the Jets are involved in it as well. The Seahawks will receive Sam Darnold and 3 first-round picks. Let me repeat that again. The Bears will receive Russell Wilson. The New York Jets will receive Sam Darnold and 3 first-round picks, and the Seahawks will the Seahawks.
The Jets would get Khalil Mack, a second round pick.
Thank you. Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson, or Kyle Fuller.
And a second rounder, yeah.
And a second round pick.
And the Seahawks would get Sam Darnold and 3 first round picks.
Mm-hmm. Would you pull off that trade?
If you're the Jets, what? Why the heck? Why would we give up? What? No. And if you're Allen Robinson, you're like, I don't want to go to the Jets. Like, what the? Say what? I mean, I love Dan Orlovsky. He's a great analyst, both in game and studio. But this is crazy. Mm-hmm. This is absurd. Like, if you're the Jets, I mean, why would they not want Russell Wilson? I mean, really, they've got most of the capital that they would need to, that the Seahawks probably will want. And if that's all the Bears get, I mean, I don't. He defended.
It's like all the Bears get from that proposed trade is Russell Wilson. That's it.
That's it. And sorry about this, folks. I gotta charge my laptop here. Who are watching this on YouTube right now? But I just think that this is just I love Dan, but this is just a crazy trade. I mean, I just don't see the Jets, agreeing to something like this. And if you're the Bears, I mean, yes, the Bears probably would be crazy enough to pull off something like this, but your top defensive player, Kyle Fuller had his spots the last couple of years. And if you're A-Rob, do you really want to go to the Jets? I mean, are you serious right now? So I just no, this is silly. What do you think, Sid?
I see the other side of this. The proposed trade was Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson, or Kyle Fuller. Let's just say you got Russell Wilson. He needs somebody to throw to. If you're the Bears, I'm keeping Allen Robinson. I can let Kyle Fuller go. Remember, Kyle Fuller, he was this close to signing with the Green Bay Packers. Of course, the Bears matched the offer sheet a couple years ago. So if I can keep Allen Robinson and let Kyle Fuller go, that's good because Khalil Mack takes up 20% of your cap. Now, I think most Bears fans will be happy because he takes up the majority of your cap, okay? You keep Allen Robinson. You have a target for Russell Wilson. Allen Robinson will be happy. He can sign a long-term extension to stay here. Kyle Fuller, he's a good player, but you got to get something good. You got to give up something good. So as long as you keep Allen Robinson, that's good. Now, if you're the Seahawks, you get Sam Darnold. He's cheap right now, so you don't have to resign him, and you get those 3 first-round picks. If Sam Darnold doesn't work out, you can draft another quarterback. The way to win in today's NFL is before you pay your franchise quarterback, he has to be on a rookie contract. You can build all the other parts of your team. That's how you win in today's NFL. I don't think this is such a bad thing if you could keep Allen Robinson.
Well, and that's the thing, right? If you're the Jets, I mean, if you're giving 3 first-round picks and Sam Darnold, I think you would rather have at A-Rob and not Kyle Fuller if you had to pick. I mean, that's why I'm saying that, you know what, look, I love you, Mr. Orlovsky, love you, Dan, but this is sort of, a little bit out there. But we'll see. I mean, look. I mean, it seems like the saga. It's a song that never ends, and I'm kind of like, I wish someone would just just do something. I wish Russell Wilson would come out and say, look, I'm staying in Seattle. I want to play here. Let's get better and see what we can do, because that NFC West division is going to be tough next year with all the 4 teams improving and and such. You got to think that the Rams are probably the favorites in that division. Yeah, we'll talk about it in due time, but look, that division is tough, and shore up that O-line, Seahawks. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason why all this stuff is coming out that seems like out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think I know how this story is going to end. And as I said it before, Lakina, a few episodes ago, the Bears are not going to get Russell Wilson. Sorry,
Kinda
Bears
simple,
fans.
right? Yeah, kind of simple.
As I said before, unless I see it in full concrete handwriting, which will not be a April Fool's joke like people thought the Jay Cutler deal was from a decade ago.
Yeah.
I don't believe it until I see it.
Yeah, unless we see Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Mike Garafolo or Tom Pelissero or any guy, maybe one of those guys say, hey, look, this is they're verified accounts, so fall for the fake ones, folks. If they said, look, Russell Wilson is trading to the Bears for, we'll say, Khalil Mack, and we'll throw in another player, Kyle Fuller or whoever, and some first round picks. Unless we see that news, which I don't think we will, but unless we see that news, I don't believe it either. This is sort of like the Kobe to the Bulls. Remember how that whole thing started all those years ago? I mean, I thought there was no smoke to that either. So I feel the same way about this.
Yeah, I was listening to Colin Cowherd from last Friday. He said that a couple of people told him that the Bears were serious in acquiring Russell Wilson. They were trying to come up with a deal that Seattle cannot refuse. Like I said, we'll see, but right now I don't believe it.
Well, hey, I want to have a relationship with Chris Evans. Doesn't mean that's happening. So I seriously want that. But that doesn't mean that's happening for me. So easy there, folks.
I want to marry Janet Jackson, but that's not happening either. So.
Okay, so look, see, we're aiming high, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Some interesting tweet that just came out from Akeem Hicks. He says he's getting off Twitter now. I don't know if that means anything. That he might have just said that because like some people sometimes you want to take a hiatus from Twitter, but his contract is up against the cap. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do decide, if not restructure, if they do just release him because of the fact that the contract's just too much.
Yeah, he's at age 30. He's been injured the last couple of years. If that happens, I can see why. But I'll say these famous 2 words: stay tuned.
Absolutely. We'll give you the news here as we always do. All right. Any other NFL nuggets that got you intrigued?
I want to move on to baseball, Lakina.
Okay.
So we'll leave the NFL alone. Of course, they'll be making more news. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on our next episode for Saturday.
Yes.
Going to baseball, as we're about 2.5 weeks away, 3 weeks away from opening day. Major League Baseball and YouTube are continuing a 3-year marriage. This comes from our friends at Awful Announcing. And this is from their column from Monday, which was yesterday. Major League Baseball and YouTube are continuing their partnership for a 3rd consecutive season. MLB announced on Monday morning that its MLB Game of the Week live on YouTube will premiere April 7th with the Tampa Bay Rays facing the Boston Red Sox at 1 p.m. Eastern. That will be the first of 3 April streaming telecasts, followed by the Angels Astros on April 22nd and Twins Indians scheduled for April 28th. Altogether, YouTube will have 21 exclusive MLB broadcasts during the 2020-21 season, each produced by MLB Network. That's up from 13 broadcasts available during the 2019 season and 4 which were streamed last year, 2 which were exclusive. For the April 7th broadcast, Scott Braun will be back on play-by-play call with returning analyst John Smoltz and Carlos Pena. Pre-game coverage will begin 30 minutes before the game's scheduled start time, hosted by MLB Network Steven Nelson, Chicago's very own, by the way, and
Yes.
Billy Ripken, the brother of Cal Ripken. No more word on whether or not we'll see the same announcing team for all 21 YouTube broadcasts. Probably not, according to this article, but depending on the broadcaster schedules, even last season, Braun with rotating analysts and reporters for a 4-game package. See if anything else should be noted here. That's pretty much it. Lakina, as we said before, we talked about other entities throughout the broadcast world, whether it's the FM station 95.1 FM here in Chicago, the FM Omni channel. They're going exclusive, digital exclusive broadcast starting in April. Of course, we talked about the NHL's new deal with ESPN last week. Of course, a lot of those games going to ESPN Plus and Hulu. NHL TV is no longer going to be a part of this thing at the end of this conclusion of this season. As I said before, people want and need options. We are in a digital age right now. The way we could is nothing like live sports, don't get me wrong, but outside of that, the way we consume sports is not just radio, is not just television anymore. It's social media, it's streaming, it's a part of this thing. It's here to stay, it's not going anywhere.
Well, and also too, if you're baseball, you need this to kind of, sort of, be engaged with the younger generation. A lot of younger,
Good point.
A lot of younger generation, they have YouTube Live. You got a lot of sports now that's going to YouTube. So I think having these games that they will get, younger fans engaged with baseball. Because we've been saying for years that baseball needs to do a better job marketing to the younger fan base, and I think this is a nice way to do it. Steven Nelson, who is, if you guys see him on MLB Network, is a riot. But he's also really, great at what he does. He is a Chicago kid, so
he's also a White Sox fan. Yes.
Well, yeah, I know. I saw that too. I know. I'm like, okay, yeah, him and Sid will probably be best friends, but but yeah.
Hopefully, we get him on the program down the road.
I hope so. He's very fun and engaging young man. But yeah, look, I think this might be a start of a trend. I think we're seeing it in college sports with football, basketball, also track. I've seen some, I think there's some indoor. I think they just had an indoor championship streamed on one of their ESPN platforms on one of their social media services. So this is sort of a way for networks and for organizations to kind of keep up with demand. So there are a lot of cord cutters out there. So I think this cord also caters to those folks too.
And also, too, we talked about the NFL's new television deal. Of course, Amazon Prime wanted to do it exclusively for Thursday nights, but they still needed one of those 4 major networks to produce the games. We're going to see that sort of in the NFL. We haven't seen it yet in the NBA, Lakina, because all the games are available through the League Pass and NBA TV, of course, ESPN and TNT. And, of course, ABC is home for the weekend games, of course, exclusively for the NBA Finals as well. So we haven't seen that in the NBA yet. Do you think we'll eventually Commissioner Adam Silver, do you think he'll try it in the foreseeable future, at least put a couple of games exclusively on YouTube? Or you think they're too big to do that?
I think maybe down the line, though, maybe not this season, obviously, but I think like next season, once everything kind of goes back to normal, I can kind of see him sort of, exploring that idea. Maybe put a couple of games exclusively on YouTube just to see, how fans will respond. But like you said, Sid, there are other avenues that the NBA is available. It's pretty, widespread. So we know how to watch the games if we really want to watch them. So. Maybe not right now, but I think maybe down the line, I think I could kind of see him doing that. But look, we're seeing it in other organizations too. The NFL, like you said, with Amazon Prime, all the Thursday night games are going to be on there. So, this might be something that's sort of like, a little sprinkle here from time to time. Maybe put one of those games on one of those, properties.
And just to wrap up this portion, baseball is just like hockey. It's a long season. I know baseball's 162 games and hockey is 82, just like the NBA. But baseball is like hockey. It's a regional sport until the playoffs start, and then then I want to say everybody, but a lot of people watch those two sports come playoff time. We know Stanley Cup playoffs, in my opinion, are the best playoffs out of the 4 major sports followed by basketball and baseball. Baseball can get away with it because you're playing the regular season about 5-6 months.
Yeah.
And so you can get away with it here and there. But in hockey, though, that sport, it needs it now more than ever. Then you have a lot of those out-of-market games going to not just Plus, but Hulu.
Yep.
I can understand trying it, but to put a lot of those games on those platforms, I don't get it. I know, like I said before, this is a new way that we watch our games, but to, especially for the sport of hockey, to not have your fans have easy access to those games via the television, have it exclusively via streaming, that's just a problem. People want and need options. Let me repeat it one more again, as the kids would say. For the folks in the back of the bus, people want and need options, especially in this digital social media world we are living in right now.
Yeah, I hope they do that at some point with the NHL, because I think that, look, you've got a problem growing your sport, so I think that having it available to as many platforms as possible can only help. That's what MLB is doing. That's what the NFL is doing. What it's doing with Amazon Prime, the NBA. Yes, they're not on like any streaming services, but there are ways you can get it. So they're set there. So the NHL really needs to work on that, like you said, Sid.
Yep. Let's see what the rating. Excuse me. We'll see what the ratings are with the MLB and YouTube as they'll continue their marriage for this upcoming season for the third straight year, as they'll air 21 games exclusively on YouTube. Hopefully, it doesn't involve both of our Chicago teams, in particular the White Sox. So it doesn't look that way, but we should see what happens with that. Lakina, you have anything else before we close out?
Also, a quick shout out to Justin Thomas for winning the Players Championship. That's sort of the unofficial fifth major. He was up there from the beginning. He was up there kind of not wire to wire, but he was sort of right there in like the top five. Had a massive, final round, final 36 holes. It's been an emotional last couple of years for him. He lost his grandfather who taught him the game. His good friend Tiger Woods, who he says like a big brother to him. Of course, we talked about what happened, the accident there. He's been talking to Tiger. He actually talked to Tiger right before he did his pressers, right after the tournament. So, but I feel good for him. His 14th PGA Tour win, his second sort of big title, if you consider the Players being another golf major. But also Leo Westwood, give a shout out to him. Missed a short putt that would have been right there with Thomas, but made another like a 20-footer in the last hole to get 1.6 million in second place all by himself. So I'm sure he would have loved to win, but he'll definitely take the bonus.
Yeah, I'm sure he will take that bonus. Nothing better than having more money in your pocket.
Yeah. Also, too, some breaking news, Sid. This actually was an hour ago, but DePaul has parted ways with Dave Leitao. So,
are you gonna do any backflips?
Well, I want to see.
Are you going to celebrate?
Well, look, I want to see what Dwayne. Look, I want to see what Dwayne Peavy does with this search. I mean, he just came out and said he's going to do a national search. So, look, you get guys like Richard Pitino. Although, look, New Mexico, they're looking for somebody, so he might, be vying for his services over there in New Mexico. Also, Tim Miles, who's a former head coach in Nebraska, took the year off, did some work for the Big Ten Network. He's another guy that's going to be, float around, I'm sure. So, look, he's kind of it's kind of like up to him now. He's kind of will finally be able to pick his guy on the men's side. So we'll see what he does. I hope he hits a home run.
Yeah, the question is, and always will be, as DePaul was once glorious even before we were born. Can you recruit in the state of Illinois, in particular in the city of Chicago? Everybody else is coming in here grabbing our talent.
Yeah.
Can you get at least the second-tier guys until you build that program back up to respectability? That's going to be the only question.
Definitely the million-dollar question.
Can you build a relationship with these Catholic schools, but in particular the Chicago public schools?
Yeah. Totally. I'm right there with you. I think this is going to be definitely an uphill battle for that program, because it's been so far behind, all these years. So, he'll finally get a chance to sort of, perhaps maybe get this program back to definitely not at the level where, the early days with Mark Aguirre and those guys, but at least be like right there to kind of at least compete in the Big East Conference, because they haven't really competed in the last few years.
Yeah, because real quick before you get up out of here, the big time talent, we already know they're going to Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, and some of your East Coast schools, North Carolina, Duke. But some of your second-tier talent, the ones that stay here, Illinois, they're going to Illinois State. They're going to Loyola. They're in the tournament again this year. Some of them are going to the nearby Big Ten schools like Wisconsin or Michigan. So if you're the next DePaul head coach, you can keep some of those guys here in the city and build your program that way.
Definitely going to be a battle, no doubt. So should be very interesting to see what he does, and what names will be floated about. No doubt, I expect them to hit a home run. All right, so anything else that's on your mind before we get out of here?
I'm looking forward to March Madness on Thursday with the play-in 4 games that will be taking place. Of course, the big enchilada will start for everybody else on Friday. That's at 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on CBS and the networks of Turner. That's TNT, TBS, and True TV. So I'm really looking forward to that one at the end of the week.
Got some great NBA, of course, to March Madness. We get to have March Madness again. Said we didn't have it last year, so I'm gonna expect that we may have a lot of, we may have some upsets, we may have some buzzer beaters, and to kind of make up for lost time. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
Yes, we didn't have it last year. Excuse me. We'll have it back this year. Hopefully things will go off without a hitch.
Smooth sailing, let's hope. Okay, on that note, you follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, and Akina is going to be on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Go to our website, www.weareregalradio.com for more information about our articles and our podcasts. And speaking of our podcast, listen to this podcast, Second City Sports, along with our other podcast programming from War Media by simply searching for War on Anchor on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. That's Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. Just type in that search engine box, War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. And we're also on YouTube at War Media, once again at WARR Media. You can not only listen to us, but you can watch us do our thing live. Thank you very much in advance for your support as we take our bows.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes. For Lakina, I don't want me to step on your outro.
Go ahead. I mean, just enjoy the game. No, I just want to say, enjoy the games, everybody, and it'll be a lot of fun. Let's hope some smooth sailing in the NCAA tournament.
Yes, for Lakina, I'm Sid. Until Saturday, we'll see you next time. This is Second City Sports on War Media. Holla!